Despite a refusal to concede by President Trump, the Biden-Harris team has begun its transition process, but they've received some criticism from journalist Ryan Lizza of CNN and over at Politico, who's taking issue with the lack of transparency and press access.
Yesterday afternoon, the Biden-Harris camp seemingly responded to that criticism. They put on a readout of the president-elect's calls with various foreign leaders. We're back with Democratic strategist Andrew Feldman and senior congressional correspondent for the Daily Caller, Henry Rogers, to discuss. Always great to have you guys. Great to see you.
Good to be here.
Henry, what is your expectation for how the Biden administration will play out in terms of press access? Because obviously there's a very fraught relationship between the Trump campaign and the press, but I mean, there was so much stuff coming out of that administration that was like almost overload. I think we're going to have kind of the exact opposite dynamic in the Biden administration.
Yeah, I mean, I think right after Ryan Lizza tweeted that out, they actually released a readout of all these calls. But I do think that we saw, obviously, throughout the campaigns, the Kamala Harris-Biden campaign of being down in the bunker strategy. And people are thinking that's going to go on to the White House. I personally don't. I think that it's going to be more of a pick your favorite reporters in the crowd and kind of roll with those people. I think the Biden campaign and the Biden transition team will be doing that as they have been throughout the campaign. So we'll see. But I think access will be as it was in the Obama administrations. I think, conservative media will have very light access and liberal media will be in there all the time doing sit-down interviews. So
yeah,
we'll see.
I think you're right.
But that's what I see happening.
I think you're right. Andrew, this one I'm curious because, look, the Obama administration, I mean, contrary to how the press portrayed it, was the most closed-off administration from the press in modern history. They tightly controlled everything that came out of their comm shop. The Biden team, and this is what I said actually during the campaign, is if you win by staying basically in the basement, heavily controlled press access, you don't have to change once you become president. Do you think they should change? I mean, all indications, there are no briefings, there's nothing. I mean, a couple readouts is great, but like in terms of actual transparency about what they're doing, not all that much. Or maybe you disagree with that characterization. What do you think?
I do disagree with that characterization. I think that we are in a moment in time here where the president of the United States isn't even acknowledging the transition of power. The GSA isn't even willing to admit that we have a new president elect. So the reality is, I think once we sort these things out, once an actual transition as the way it should and is supposed to move forward can move forward, I think you will see daily briefings from the Biden transition team or and then the Biden
president. Isn't that, Andrew, giving a little too much power to this Trump GSA? Like, why should they wait for that person? They should just move forward.
Which is what they're doing.
Because he is the president-elect. They are moving forward. I mean, they released these transition teams for the agencies. They're clearly they're talking about they're going to go ahead and announce some of their cabinet members for confirmation before Thanksgiving. So they clearly are moving forward on other fronts. Why not also move forward on this front?
Look, this is not anything but a traditional transition. But let me tell you, I mean, you have not put up the footage from yesterday of numerous reporters from all sorts of outlets coming to the microphone asking Joe Biden questions. So I really don't think this is a fair characterization. I think that when you look at what the president of the United States, how he interacts with the press right now, I mean, I think you are going to see daily briefings from the White House briefing room. I think you will see readouts. And I think you got to give the Biden team a little bit of time here to sort out all the staffing, all the logistics that go into this. But again, Ryan Lizza may have an issue with this, but from the reporters I'm talking to daily who are in Wilmington daily, I'm not hearing the same complaint.
Henry, the other thing that's interesting to me in terms of like a very radically different approach of the Trump administration versus the incoming Biden administration is like the Trump people were too online. Trump was too online, obviously, like famously with the tweets, but even with the issues that they decide to talk about, with some of the personalities they decide to engage with. And the Biden team is affirmatively not online. Like their approach in the primary and in the general election, which paid off for them, was to essentially ignore the sort of Twitter conversation that goes on and to run this very traditional shop and approach, even as we are in a very different modern media landscape. how do you think that that dynamic plays out? What do you think that the feel and the look will be like that for the American people?
Well, I mean, it depends on how they use the social media, obviously, but I think that the social media strategy for the Trump campaign actually helped them throughout their presidency. I mean, they were able to connect with so many people who had never actually been interested or involved in any of this stuff. And then all of a sudden they start seeing, tweets from every single person possible in the White House with the blue check mark and all these issues and things. So I do think that the social media could be helpful to the Biden campaign if they use it correctly. I think that the Trump campaign and the Trump White House has had some issues with their tweets, and I think that stems from the president himself, not his counterparts most times. But I do think, like I said, I do think that the Biden campaign should get on social media more and use it to their advantage if they want to pick up some more voters and people moving forward in this cycle.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. All right, guys, thank you for joining us. We appreciate it.
Good to see you guys.
Good to be here.
Thank you.
Next on Rising, author Ryan Gradusky is going to explain why Trump lost ground with white men this election cycle. That's when Rising continues.